Hiya, here we are again. How you doing? Hope you've had a good week. So, Wednesday comes around quick, doesn't it? Or maybe you don't find that. I find the days kind of zoom by, literally zoom by, sometimes filled with Zoom meetings, though I know I'm not as overwhelmed by them as some. But anyway, it's good to see you. So, last week's midweek challenge was to share stories that have opened your eyes to a different way of thinking, a different life, a different context of living, that have you found meaningful and powerful in some way. And I said films, but we also expanded that to plays and books. And you have dutifully answered with many great examples. So there was films-wise, we had The Servant, going back a few years. We had I, Daniel Blake, which a few of you mentioned, and we went to see as a church, and one member said the silence that they remember coming out of the cinema because it was beautiful film, but brutal, and just like a lot of Ken Loach's films, just amazing. We had Geronimo, we had To Kill a Mockingbird, classic book and film, Hidden Figures, In the Heat of the Night, Grapes of Wrath, Me Before You, Cry Freedom, The Pianist, and if we're mentioning Holocaust films, for me, I know it's well, I'm a big Spielberg fan, I'm afraid, but Schindler's List as well. There's a bit at the end when Oscar Schindler is saying, "I could have saved more. I could have saved more," and it is after his throughout the film he's more reticent, and it starts off more as a business, and oh man, that is a heartbreaking realization, and might be something for us to reflect on. Could we do more? Anyway, keep it light. We had some recommendations from American History X, which I'm about to go and give to Marilyn. I hope she's ready. It's an 18. It's a bit not for the faint-hearted. And Remember the Titans, another great film. TV recommendations included Noughts and Crosses, which was on, was that earlier this year or the autumn? But it was great. Roots, the TV show about slavery. We had the poem If. The books Gilead, Beautiful Gilead by Marilyn Robinson. We had Cry, the Beloved Country, which I haven't read actually, and the Poisonwood Bible, which I read a while ago, and I remember it doesn't go well. So really great examples. Feel free to keep them coming in. And what I think they show as art forms, well, so much, the importance of story, as I was speaking about last week, but they remind us of the wonderful diversity of humanity, the wonderful ways in which we have been created differently, and the ways we experience life, see life, feel about life. And I think a lot of those art forms, the books, the plays, the poems, TV, help us widen our horizons and remind us that we can celebrate our diversity, that diversity is a good thing. Of course, in some ways, that's nothing new. St. Paul talked about that way back in the first letter to the Corinthian church, a big section of which I'm going to read now. So feel free to put the kettle on or something. Long section, taken from the Message. Each of us is now a part of Christ's resurrection body, and I want you to think about how all this makes you more significant, not less. A body isn't just a single blown up part into something huge. It's all the different but similar parts arranged and functioning together. If the foot said, "I'm not elegant like the hand, embellished with rings, I guess I don't belong to the body," would that make it so? If the ear said, "I'm not beautiful like the eye, limpid and expressive," great word, limpid, "I don't deserve a place on the head," would you want to remove it from the body? If the body was all eye, how could it hear? If all ear, how could it smell? As it is, we see that God has carefully placed each part of the body right where God wanted it. But I also want you to think about how this keeps your significance from getting blown up into self-importance. For no matter how significant you are, it is only because you are a part of. An enormous eye or a gigantic hand wouldn't be a body but a monster. What we have here is one body with many parts, each its proper size and in its proper place. No part is important on its own. Can you imagine the eye telling the hand, get lost, I don't need you? Or the head telling the foot, you're fired, your job has been phased out. As a matter of fact, in practice, it works the other way. The lower the part, the more basic and therefore necessary. You can live without an eye, for instance, but not without a stomach. When it's a part of your own body you are concerned with, it makes no difference whether the part is visible or clothed, higher or lower. You give it dignity and honour just as it is, without comparisons. If anything, you have more concern for the lower parts than the higher. If you had to choose, wouldn't you prefer good digestion to full-bodied hair? The way God designed our bodies is a model for understanding our lives together as a church, each part dependent on every part, the parts we mention and the parts we don't, the parts we see and the parts we don't. If one part hurts, each other part is involved in the hurt and in the healing. If one part flourishes, each other part enters the exuberance. You are Christ's body, that's who you are. You must never forget this. And as I was reading that, a sentence that popped out to me there, and I wasn't planning on saying this before, if one part hurts, every other part is involved in the hurt and in the healing. And I think, thinking of everything that's been going on these past few weeks, these past few thousand years, but that's come to the fore again these last few weeks with the Black Lives Matter movement. I think that sentence has particular resonance. So we saw the diversity in those books and films, plays and poems, and there, in comparing the body of Christ, in comparing the church to a human body, St. Paul is saying, you know, each of us has a place, each of us is significant, each of us brings something. Which is a little bit like the Spice Girls. You know, Mel C, Sporty Spice, she had the great vocals. Scary Spice brought a bit of personality. Ginger Spice, she had the iconic Union Jack dress in the Brits performance. Baby Spice was just wonderful as she was. And Posh Spice, did she bring mystique? I don't know. It's been a while. The reason I'm talking about the Spice Girls is because of the diversity. They're different but united. But also because of this week's challenge. Because I was remembering in my sister's teenage magazines, they had these quizzes. They're the only part of the magazine that I ever appreciated her sharing with me. And believe me, I got to share a lot. I don't really wish to reflect too much upon the time she enforced Madonna's Like a Prayer routine on me, unwilling as I was. But one of the things I did like is you'd have these quizzes, you know, do you prefer bananas to apples? Oh, I go down this route. Would you like to eat 1 grape or 5 grapes? You go down this route. And, you know, they'd ask you all these questions. In the end, you'd find out which Spice Girl you were most like, or which animal you would be, or all of that nonsense. And I find that kind of thing a little bit interesting. I would hope, as I've matured slightly, that my tastes in these kind of personality tests have also matured. And some of these are better known and better respected than others. I remember when I was going through ministry training, I had to do the Myers-Briggs personality test and talk to an expert on the Myers-Briggs test about what it said about my personality, the things I might bring to ministry, the things I might struggle with, all this kind of thing. And I'm a bit of a fan of the Myers-Briggs test. So this was a test partly based on the psychology of Carl Jung, who was a Swiss psychiatrist. His dad was a Reformed minister, and Carl Jung, his belief in the unconditional love of the divine kind of pervades all his work. So yeah, I kind of like it. The Catherine Briggs and Isabel Briggs Myers, a mother and daughter, took some of his work and structured it into 16 possible personality types, and suggested that the way we respond to things, the way we perceive things, we might find ourselves more in one of these types than another. There's all sorts of caveats when it comes to this. Some people will say, well, you can't divide people, 7 billion people, or however many we're on now, into 16 types. And of course, there's a truth in that. And others point to the fact that your personality type might might subtly change over the years. And also that if you take the test, you could be 51% of one thing, 49% of another, all of these things. But I think when you answer it honestly, certainly those who enjoy a bit of self-examination might find it interesting. And I also find it interesting hearing what others come out as. I know some of my friends who are teachers and who are a great believer in Myers-Briggs and who have done their seating plan according to Myers-Briggs, sometimes putting groups that were similar in the same group so they could work in a similar way, and sometimes bringing individuals from different groups together so they could work as a team. I kind of like it. You don't have to. But what my invitation is, more of an invitation than a challenge this week, is to do the Myers-Briggs test. There's loads of them online, but the one I would suggest, which is quite decent, perhaps overly positive, free, but is interesting enough, is 16, the numbers, well, we'll put it down here, 16personalities.com. Takes about 15 minutes and you've got to answer honestly. So I thought we'd encourage that, because when we learn how other people respond or how other people feel about certain situations, I do also think that can help us perhaps be a bit more generous with one another, that we don't judge one another. Well, why didn't you? Why did you get so upset about that? You shouldn't have. Or, well, why did you get angry about that? You know, you should have just let it go. When we learn a bit more about where other people are coming from, their personality makeup, how God's made them, how context has shaped them, but the gifts that they have to bring, as well as some of the challenges, I think it can make us a lot more gracious to one another. So that's the invitation for this week, to take part in that personality test. And then if you want to explore it more, there's loads of things online where you can find out more about it. But 16personalities.com. And then if you are willing, you might want to share what you are. So what I'm suggesting, for those who want to, you might share the letters. You will come out as a series of 4 letters. You might say whether you think it's accurate or not. Perhaps something about the personality type, your personality type, that you think, oh yeah, I'm not so keen on that about myself. But also something that you value about that personality type, so we can be positive. And anything else you might want to share. I think this is about learning more about reflecting on who we are and other people. And the great thing is there's no right or wrong personality type. Except, I mean, mine is the best. But no, there's no right or wrong personality type. And it's a reminder of those words of Paul, that we all have different gifts to bring. And then the whole body benefits when we bring those different gifts and understand how we can work together. So, for example, I am an INFJ, which sometimes comes out as the advocate. And I think this actually, when I've done research into it, I think it's fairly accurate. The description of my strengths, my weaknesses, the way I respond to things, I think it is quite accurate. Though I would say whenever I take these tests, I'm always on the cusp of extrovert. I'm actually come out as an introvert, where you get your energy from. But I'm always, the last time I did it, I was 51% introvert, 49% extrovert. The weakness, it does suggest that this personality type has an impatience for routine maintenance. I think those of you who know me well will know, either when it comes to the routine admin for the church or even routine maintenance of cleaning my house, I think that's probably true. The positive, these personality types appreciate authenticity, and that is true. I do love people who are who they are, who don't play games, who are just honest and about who they are. Whatever type they are, whatever their personality, whatever socio-economic class they come from, I love people who are authentic. And one other thing you might be interested to know, as I suggested, is my personality type needs a balance of time with others and time to themselves. And I think that's definitely true of me. I enjoy going out and meeting new people and getting to know folks and going to parties. And I also enjoy closing that door and hiding in my den, watching a film on my own. So that's the invitation this week. What is your personality type? Share if you feel comfortable to. And you might think it's a load of rubbish, which is a valid opinion as well. And you might want to instead spend some more time in the garden. But for now, I will bid you adieu. Go well this week. And to finish, again, a bit lighthearted, some of the photos that for various reasons we didn't get in the last week's video of people wearing clothes that they don't get out of the wardrobe often in interesting circumstances. So enjoy those. Have a wonderful week. God bless and go well.